So anyway, most people are too timid. So what we always say is let your enemy prune your bushes, and they'll tend to take the right amount off. Yeah, exactly.
Многие люди предпочитают предоставить возможность кусту расти так, как он растет, и боятся обрезать, не хотят.
Ah, okay. So to start with, you look at the bush, anything from the knee down is no good.
Вы смотрите на куст, и все то, что растет, по высоте достигает ниже, чем до колена, нужно убирать.
So all these, if we gave them time, they may grow enough to be a large cane, but we already have 5 or 6 good large canes.
Они вырастут большие ветви, но они, на это потребуется, мы уже имеем большие ветви, поэтому убираем всю эту мелочь.
All this little stuff growing sideways is no good.
Все, что растет в стороны, тоже убираем.
If this was to bear fruit, it's going to drop down and get on the ground and rot, so it's no good.
Если на нем будут плоды, на этой горизонтальной ветке, она склонится к земле, ягоды будут гнить. Это тоже нехорошо.
So then you get in here and you got something like this laying on the ground, cut it off.
Лежащие на земле тоже убираем.
Come around on the other side, you got all these coming up out of the ground.
Вот эти всю мелочь.
Just cut them off.
Убираем, которая растет.
Stuff like this, no good. Stuff like that. Now, you can look at it and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 big canes.
Вот сейчас есть 6 больших ветвей у куста.
Now you're going to want to leave some canes for your future large canes.
Вот это где-то растет на замену старых ветвей.
But what you can do is take a look at that. If it's got branches like this, no good.
Вот эти мелочи тоже убираем.
And this nice and clean going up, so it'll branch out at the top. Because what's going to happen,
Что должно произойти?
over time, these 6, 7, 8 branches, you're going to have to start selectively removing one every year, or maybe 2.
Год нужно старую ветвь убирать, одну старую ветвь.
And what that's going to do is ensure that you always have a good, new, vigorous cane growing for your next year's crop. Now these bushes should be able to last 40 years, 30, 40, 50 years.
Этот куст может расти еще 30-40 лет.
But they only will as long as you can, every year, once they're established, once they're mature, every year you come in and take out one major cane. The problem with that is, if you take out this cane this year, you know, you're going to have only that much fruit left.
Если вы уберете большую ветвь в этом году, то останутся только вот эти ветви, и на них будет меньше плодов.
So, you know, you wait until you've got all large canes coming up and just accept the fact that you're going to have to reduce the crop load on this bush to keep it alive, to keep it vigorous. More.
It means the last idea. It means you have to give opportunity for the young canes to grow up to replace the old one.
Now you go in here and look, and you've got some dead, more twiggy stuff here. You got this over here. You got this down low, and you can leave this to come up in this. But it's hard to see on the camera here. But you're getting a branch going sideways like that. You want to head it off and take all this other growth that's going even further away from the bush. So now what you've got is, so you've cleaned up the bottom, and that looks pretty good. Now you can go in here and look and see what's not healthy. This stuff here, this, and you know, you can look at this. It's growing out nice. It's growing toward the middle. It'll be a nice cane. Come on around the bush. Now, when they're talking about twiggy, this little stuff here is what he's talking about. Maybe some of these little skinny twigs. And the idea is every blueberry plant is going to put on a crop bigger than it can support. That always, whether it's a little plant or a big plant like this, it's going to put on a much heavier crop than it can support.
Branches has to stone themselves, the crop, all berries what are growing on them.
Well, it will support the crop that it puts on, but the berries will stay small. Okay, if you reduce the bush itself, what you wind up with is bigger berries.
Когда уменьшается, как прореживается куст, количество ягод уменьшается, но их размер увеличивается.
If you think of it this way, this bush may put on 5 pounds of fruit.
Вот на этом кусте могло бы вырасти 5 фунтов ягод.
If you don't prune it, it'll be 5 pounds of small fruit.
Если не обрезать его, будет 5 фунтов мелких ягод.
But if you take some of this bush off, you'll still get 5 pounds of fruit. It'll just be much larger fruit.
По-прежнему, если обрезать его правильно, будет по-прежнему 5 фунтов, но ягоды будут крупнее.
Now you can step back and look at the bush. It looks okay. This stuff down here can come off. It's not really doing anything for you. And then just look at the bush again, just for the twiggy stuff. Now, you can, you've got to leave some of the twiggy stuff because you just don't have time to go through, because every bush is covered with twiggy stuff. So then the next thing to do is look at how tall the bush is getting. And then you've got to make a choice. At some point, some of these taller branches have to be cut down, because when the bush gets up here, it can't be harvested. So in this bush, it's one of those choices. You can take this out right here, and then it'll branch out over here maybe. You'll just have to see. But you have to constantly keep it back down the size. Now, a lot of that's done by cutting the lower branches here, and they're going to come up, and then you're reducing the size here as it comes up from the bottom.
And from this it will produce new shoots.
Yeah.
Она, значит, если обрезать на этой высоте эту мощную ветку, то из оставшейся части ветви вырастут мощные однолетние приросты, которые сформируют новый.
And then here's more of the twiggy stuff that you can remove.
Эти мелкие ветки тоже рекомендуют убрать.
If those branches put berries on, they can't support a large berry at all. So you know you're going to get small fruit. When this out here sets some buds, you have the opportunity to get large fruit. And that's about all this bush needs, I think, for the time. We can move on to a different variety. I think the biggest thing though to remember is cleaning up the bottom, removing the low stuff. One other factor is, aside from possibly touching the ground, pickers tend to stay up here when they harvest. They don't want to bend over. So if you can keep the fruit from here up, more of it will get picked when they go through the field.
And with all fruits will be concentrated in this area, it's easier to pick.
Exactly.
То есть, когда ягоды находятся вот в этой части, куст снизу, примерно на 150 сантиметров, теряет все ветки обрастающие, становится более стройным, узким внизу и более рослым и свободным доступу солнца в верхней части. Tomorrow we'll see his bushes.
Okay. Small bushes or large bushes?
Большие или